So hello there and welcome to Boxing Media Hub. We're proudly in partnership with Falcon Contracting and Jam's Boxing Chat, and we're here for a review of the two cards last night from the BMO Stadium in Los Angeles and the card from Oakwell Stadium, Barnsley. What we'll do, we'll go around the room, we'll just give out the fight, and if anyone's got a comment on it, have your say. If not, pass it on to the next man. So we'll start with the fight of the absolute night for me, Stevie McKenna against Joe Laws. This was an absolute incredible 3-round fight. Honestly, I lost my voice within a minute and a half. I got so excited. I ain't screamed like that for a long time. It was incredible. Joe Laws showed his heart. He showed what a warrior he is. He showed that he's a true warrior. But McKenna just showed that he's a level above. It was a fantastic fight while it lasted. He had him down 3 times in the third round, once in the first. Both men went down in the first. It was tremendous. Carl, what was your thoughts on that one, sir?
Yeah, very good fight. Me and Roll was ringside for it. The atmosphere, well, last night, I've got to give it a special mention. Quite possibly the loudest atmosphere I've probably been to recently anyway. I thought McKenna got pulled into Laws' style of fight a little bit. I'd like to have seen McKenna keep on end of a jab. But that round one quite possibly could be round of the year, right? Because they just both come out and went toe-to-toe in the middle of the ring. So McKenna was a classy operator. I think Laws ran out of juice a little bit around that round 3 where he looked a very tired fighter by the end of it. But props to them both because they really did put on the show. So
It was
tremendous.
It really was amazing, mate. Honestly, it was one of the best fights I've seen. Like, for a 3-rounder, it was one of the best fights. The last time I remember getting that excited for a fight was probably Ashley and Chris Bork, but that was because it's Ashley and he's a friend of the channel. But before that, it was Cole Frotch, Lucian Bute when I was in Nottingham in 2012. That was the last time I got that sort of raw energy from a fight.
To be fair, James, you said they was going to do it, didn't they? All week they were saying they was going to meet in the middle of the ring and have it, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see, mate. When we actually get what they say, it's perfect. That's boxing for y'all. That's definitely how we want it. That's how we want it. Right, mate. Brett, what's your thoughts on this one? Did you watch the fight?
I caught the highlights, and so I'll get a little bit more technical as we move forward for the American card. But it just looked like 2 lads had a bit of beef in the pub and said, "Let's go outside in the car park and let's just best man wins," because it was just all out action, wasn't it? Like I didn't watch it live, but I was same Jams. I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?" Like it just had me on the edge of my seat. But fair play to the lads. I caught a bit of the pre interviews, and like Carl said, they said they were going to go at it, and they certainly did. But that's all I can say because I only saw the highlights.
Fair play, matey. Thank you so much, Brett. Next up, we got Sam from SW Fight Hub. What's your thoughts on this one, Sam?
Yeah, what a fight, Jam. Absolutely incredible. I love Joe Laws. He's a good talker. He's had the Devin Haney links, hasn't he, in the past? He's never one to mince his words. But, I was interested. I hadn't seen too much of McKenna, but obviously I heard he'd been sparring with Terence Crawford. So he's obviously very well sort of. First off, he's got a hell of a chin because even though he was nailing Joe Laws early on in the fight, he took some big whacks. Obviously, he got dropped in that first round, but he took a few before that as well. So, no doubt in his chin, but, it just looked like Laws, ran out of gas at the end. But like you say, first round especially, that and then the round 9 last week we had between Joyce and Chisora, we've had 2 incredible rounds in back-to-back weeks. But, excited to see where McKenna goes. He looks like a bit of a talent, but Joe Laws' game is a badger as always.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, Sam, mate, to be honest. I'd definitely put that first round, though, between Laws and McKenna above any fight I've seen in the last 10 years. I really would. It was absolutely incredible. It was 2 men putting it all on the line. They were willing to give it all. They'd have died in that ring. They were literally willing to give everything they had to get that win. And it just turned out on the day that Stevie McKenna just had that little bit something special. Anyway, is that Mr. Holcomb next?
Indeed, yeah. As Carl said, I was ringside-ish. I actually missed the first knockdown because I was round the back interviewing someone. Then obviously I could hear the count. I thought, wow, I'm missing the action. So I rushed back to my seat. But yeah, I don't think it's disrespectful to say it was reminiscent of Hagler Hearns. No one's saying they're at that level, but just for the sheer intensity from the opening bell, it was reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Carl will agree. It was by the end of the third round, I was emotionally drained from watching it, and I was really almost urging Lawsy to hang on in that third round. But I think under WBC rules, 3 knockdowns, it would have been called anyway. But yeah, Lawsy, he's always good value though, isn't he? We know McKenna's probably quite a few levels above him, and he'll probably go on to sort of at least compete at world level. But I think Lawsy, I'd like to see him maybe get a title at a level where he can compete at. So instead of just some, dangerous prospects, so someone like himself who's domestic level, he's better than than the persona he puts out. He's got some good wins behind him. So, but yeah, like I said, emotionally draining. And funny thing is, up till that fight, I told all the colleagues around us that in none of these fights so far have we seen anyone throw punches with any serious intent. So, yeah.
We got to the
and then I got to we got that. So, yeah, that is going to be in the memory for a long, long time. So it'll be interesting to see where both men go. Yeah, McKenna, it's not clear what they're going to get for him. I would have thought guys like Congo and Marku, they're under the same stable, the boxer. Him against Marku, that'd be a terrific fight, wouldn't it?
I was going to say that, right? Marku would probably be the one. I think Congo deserves a better shot than that at the moment myself. But yeah, Congo, Marku, I'd definitely give him that crack.
That'd be a terrific fight.
He brings a crowd,
and
Marku.
He does. He does bring a hell of a crowd, and that fight would suit Marku better, I think. It's a slugfest. And yeah, as I said, Lawsy, I'd like to see him get some appropriate level matches where he deserves the chance to try and win something.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you, Rame. So next up, we've got Harrison Ferris. Thank you for joining, Harrison. What was your thoughts on this fight if you watched it, sir?
I did indeed. Thanks for having me, Jams. Yorkshire's very own answer to their own Hagler Horns, I suppose, than like Ross said. We're not going to say that the levels that those two have just fought at were anything remotely close to what we've seen back in the day, but just get it sometimes where styles make fights and it really just gelled perfectly. Like they said, they promised they were both going to do exactly that, and they did exactly what they were going to say. Really good domestic dust-up and just something that really verified itself with fans and really brought the crowd alive. In Yorkshire, like those two who were there last night have just said, really, really good crowd last night, and it was good to see. They could have easily filled the place. Just fantastic. And Stephen McKenna's probably proven himself now that he's got a real good opportunity to go on to high British and European level fights now after this. I know this is probably a bit licensed murder to suggest, but I'd love the Sam Eggington fight at one stage as well. I think those two are probably coming into the career paths quite nicely together. And I think that if we're talking about styles making fights and blokes who are just going to go and give it everything, I think that's the fight that you make next. But I was really impressed with McKenna last night. It was a bit remnant of the old Ultimate Boxer days, the fast-paced sort of 3-round qualifier fights, and you knew you had to give everything. It felt like I was watching the Olympics in Barnsley. It was brilliant. Just a real good spectacle for fans to watch, and I was really impressed with McKenna last night.
There is a caveat to that, though, Harrison, isn't there? You don't want too many of them type fights if for longevity purposes. You don't want to keep going to the well too many times.
For him getting to that top level, yeah, I'd absolutely agree. But I suppose from a fan perspective, it's going to really help build his profile and CV very quickly. He's talking about wanting to do big main events in Ireland. I don't think that's far-fetched at all. I think he's got a good fan base. He's well-loved. So I wouldn't mind seeing 1 or 2 more dust-ups before we get to the big level anyways.
Would anyone like to see that rematch between Laws and McKenna? I know there's not really a point because McKenna took him out clean, but for the excitement, would you like to see that over in Ireland or something for a bit of a day out?
I don't think the second fight goes that way, Jams. I think McKenna would actually keep him end of a jab and technically beat him up this time.
Yeah, he wouldn't let his emotions get the better of him. Yeah, I completely agree, actually, Cole, to be honest with you. Just before I get to you, Mr. Aston, I'm just going to read a couple of comments. Chabit Boxing said, evening, lads. Good evening to yourself, sir. And Mr. Neutral's joined. Hello, sir. I thought you might be asleep. I was trying to get you on the panel, pal. He said, good evening, gents. Big up Boxing Media Hub and all the lads. Glad to see Alex has recovered. Was you a little bit tiddly last night, Alex, by any chance?
I puked on camera.
You're kidding. Did you really?
Yeah.
What, you're on the win?
Say it with pride.
You didn't see me, but that's what I did, and I admitted it.
Oh, damn. That's never good, mate. That's never
Was that,
good.
Alex, was that when Bicoli knocked your next big hope out? Is that why you
Gary
said
Anderson.
No, it was actually when Andy Ruiz got that horrible majority draw against
Yeah,
Baby
trust
Miller.
me, that nearly done me, mate. That nearly done me.
Yep.
That
So
was
that's
terrible. Right, bless up. Thank you. Right, Mr. Aston, sir. Thank you for joining Birmingham's finest. What was your thoughts on this fight if you watched it?
Just 3 rounds of brutality. It was fantastic to watch, and then like what the guys have said, they did promise it us. I thought McKenna fell into the trap of Joe Lawes' style of fight. I think he could have done a lot better, but he, like I say, fell into the trap, and I think he could have picked Joe Lawes off quite comfortably and outboxed him. But I think he wanted to impress himself, like show he could have a tear up, like Joe Lawes bring it to him. I think Joe Lawes deserves a lot of credit for that fight, how many shots he took, and the way he was willing, at the heart he showed to carry on. I mean, I'm glad that the towel come in the end, because I think he'd have just kept going all night. The way he was willing, he was just phenomenal. But the good thing is about him, even though he lost the fight, for what he gave us in entertainment value, he will come again. Obviously, he'll drop a level, but he will. I think Sky will still have him on shows and that, because of the way he was entertaining. On to bigger and better things from McKenna. I'm not 100% convinced how far he can go, because I think he can get dragged into like bad style of fights. I think he needs to stick to his game plan a bit more. But we'll see how he does. But hats off to them both. It was very entertaining. It was a 3-round classic, and they both deserve a lot of credit. It was a brilliant fight.
Completely agree, Mr. Aston. Thank you, mate. Yeah, hasn't he got a brother, Stevie? Aaron. Is it Aaron?
Aaron. Yeah, Aaron McKenna. Yeah.
He's another one who could do big things, but they do get drawn in a wee bit, don't they? They get drawn into being the hard man. They need to get that out of the game, and they could be some masterful boxers.
Definitely, yeah.
100%. I'm just going to get through a couple of these comments again. Mr. Neutral's laughing at me. Thank you, Mr. Neutral.
He's laughing.
I think he might be laughing at Alex, actually, about being sick on camera.
Yep.
It might be about that. Cabot Boxing said, about time Bicoli had some respect on his name. Billy Nelson been screaming it. He's the boogeyman. And then he said, great 3-round war. Agree with Darren. Great heart and made it entertaining. McKenna's stock grew massively off that performance. Yeah, but I think Lawes did as well. I think Lawes showed that he's a tough man. And he dragged him into that title fight, and it was good. Mr. Neutral said, Anderson grossly overrated. I think he's on about Big Baby.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that. Alex, did you watch this one, mate, in the UK?
Actually, I did watch it. It wasn't on my radar, but then I tuned into your show with your mate, and you were reacting to it, so I turned it on. I looked online, I found a link, and I was really surprised because from what I was hearing from you guys, it looked like McKenna, because he had already dropped him by the time I started watching. I'm like, well, I guess this is going to be over fast. But then Lawes caught lightning in the bottle, and he hurt McKenna and put him down. And I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong. And they just kept up that pace the whole 3 rounds. And finally, Lawes, I don't think he ran out of gas, more as he got beaten into submission by McKenna.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, mate. I was just saying, 100% agree with you. He did. He just had the fight beaten out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he really did.
Bigger and better things for McKenna. Lawes put in a performance that's like Derek Chisora-like. As long as you always leave it all in the ring, people are going to come back and watch you. So he'll get another good payday for sure.
Oh, Lawes will get more fights from the back end of this than he got for his last win. You know what I mean? Because people are now going to say he's going to come and test my man. And they're going to want someone like Joe Lawes to come in, all aggressive, ripped up, ready to go, just to bring the fight to test his man. He'll get a lot of opportunities from this fight, I believe.
Yep, a guy you can beat, but who will put you in the pressure cooker to see if you can handle it.
Exactly, mate, exactly. Håkan Johansson from Sweden said, evening, lads. Good evening to yourself, Håkan. Mr. Neutral saying good evening to Håkan. And then Håkan saying good evening to Mr. Neutral. It's like we're on a loop here, guys. Right, shall we move on to the second fight of the night then? Zach Chelly, Callum Simpson. This one, I don't know. I was very disappointed in Zach Chelly, I must admit. I expected Simpson to win, but I was very disappointed in Zach Chelly. His skillful, like his normal stance and boxing style, he should have been able to do a lot more than he done for me. I was very disappointed. I know the size was a bit different. He looked like he was being bullied a bit. But I don't know. Zach Chelly didn't look right to me. I didn't like it. What did you think, Cole?
I don't agree. I think Zach Chelly's bang average. I always have done. So I think that defeat will look better over the course of time. I think Callum Simpson's going to go better and better and go through the levels, if I'm honest. He had his moments in the fight, Zach Chelly, but he never looked like winning, I'll be honest. He never looked like winning. I think Simpson would be a bit disappointed he didn't get him out of there. But remember, it's still very early days for Callum Simpson. So, you know, as much as I'm saying Zach Chelly's average, it's not a bad victory. He's now got the belts. Doesn't need to be a rematch. So I think Callum Simpson did what was expected of him. I thought he'd go long, and he did. So, like I said, I worry about Simpson's power a little bit, because that's still to be tested. Because he had things all his own way for the majority of the fight and still couldn't get him out of there. But a win's a win, right? So Simpson will move onwards. I'm not sure what Zach Chelly does now. You know, where's it leave him? I don't know. Strange fight to take from the Chelly camp, if I'm honest with you, to take the champion away from home into the challenger's backyard. Bit of a strange one, but no, Simpson was very good. Still early in his career. I expect him to go up through the levels.
Thank you, Cole, mate. And I completely agree with every word you said. The boxing man, Brett, what's your thoughts on this one, sir?
I'm in Canada, lads. So I missed this one. And a couple of questions back to you boys that've seen it live, and some of you have been ringside. One is how good is Simpson, and where does he go from here? And two, I've tried to find is this a nature of his brand or his name, or I tried to find highlights everywhere this morning because I knew it was coming on the show. I couldn't find anything. So was that because the fight wasn't that great, or was that because the boxer are not branding him good enough?
There wasn't a lot of highlights, in truth, mate. There was no real moments in the fight that would be excited like in class as highlights. So that's probably why, mate, to be honest.
And how good is he? Where does he go next?
I don't think we know how good he is yet, to be honest with you, because I think Zach Chelly is that average that if it's going to be anything near what he thinks he's going to be, he beats him, and he did. Couldn't get him out of there, so I query his power. But it's a bit early, isn't it? You know, it's a bit early to how good he's going to be.
Is he going to be because obviously you were there, Carl? Because he was. I did see. I found an interview where he said he's on to bigger and better things. Shalom had promised him stuff. And will that Barnsley fan base get behind him? Is it a big boxing community in Barnsley?
Well, it's a growing one. They did 7,000 tickets in 48 hours, so it suggests that he could open up. You know, he could. Harrison said fill it. I think that might be really stretch out Harrison, unless it's a good dance partner. But the super middleweight division is a poor division anyway compared to eras gone by. I'm from Nottingham, so I'm talking about the Carl Froch days. Well, Callum Simpson would never have lived Carl Froch. So if you want to compare areas, which is difficult, but in today's super middleweight, I think the division's wide open for Callum Simpson to go through the levels quite quickly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sam, SW Fight Hub, what was your thoughts on this fight, mate?
Yeah, it was, like the guys were saying, and you said yourself, Jam, it, wasn't the best fight in the world to watch. The cleaner work come from Callum Simpson. He deservedly won the fight. I was very disappointed with Zach Chelly, to be honest with you.
Me too.
He didn't bring a lot to the table. I thought, I find it interesting that the boxer put it on at Oakwell, to be fair, with 7,000, but it looked like you guys were there. It looked like the crowd were very, very lively. I didn't realize Callum Simpson had that big of a following, to be fair. So I'm just trying to scratch my head about where does he go. He's British and Commonwealth super middleweight champion now. So who does he match up with next? I can't even scratch my head and think, well, where does he go now? I know he's probably going to defend it, or try and win it outright, whatever you do with the Lonsdale belt. But who does he fight next? No names sticking out to me, really, to be honest.
No, same. Sam.
More to the point, who can box to get over the line?
Well, that's the other side of it as well. Ben Shalom was very apologetic about not being there last night in a few interviews I watched. But yeah, who can they get over the line? I don't know any super middleweights that Boxer have on their books that can.
I can't think of a single one.
Mark Jeffers.
Oh, Jeffers, yeah, but no, he didn't already knock him out. He knocked out the last guy.
I think he'll fight Mark Jeffers next.
Jeffers will clean him up, man, surely.
Not so sure.
What do you think? I don't know. I think Jeffers might knock him out myself.
Right.
Who was we talking about earlier who Jeffers knocked out? Jeffers knocked out the super middleweight we were talking about earlier. Or was that?
He beat Zach Shelley, didn't he?
Oh, that's who I'm talking about, Zach Shelley. Yeah, that's why. Sorry, mate. My mind's mud at the minute, Darren. I ain't slept since 4:30 Friday morning, mate. I can barely think straight, honestly. Even keeping the names right is the trouble. Right, so we'll move on to Mr. Hokum. What was your thoughts on this fight, mate?
It went somewhat how I described it. I did a pre-fight analysis with our colleagues over at ESBR. Not the result. I thought maybe Zach Shelley was all his know-how that he's amassed in his relatively brief career. He's been around for ages, but you look at his record, he's actually fought a lot of unbeaten fighters, I think, since his third fight. But anyway, I did say it's going to be a really ugly fight that will be difficult to score. Although I thought Shelley might somehow eke out a decision, didn't get anywhere near that. Simpson was definitely the winner. Although I thought the scorecards were a bit generous, because in the constant mess of scuffed swings and clinching and whatnot, there weren't much landing from either man. I think it is because in that first round when Shelley got buzzed, he did then realise he's quite hugely outgunned, and did sort of make it more of a negative fight. So that is a contributing factor. But yeah, I think Simpson, great talent. I think still a long way to go in terms of obviously his aspirations. So I don't think it would be a good idea for him to try and jump levels yet. Mark Jeffers, I actually interviewed him afterwards. So check out the interview on Punch Out Boxing later tonight. Mark Jeffers actually said, well, I handled Shelley a lot easier. He apparently wanted Kevin Saggio, the big-hitting Frenchman who holds the EBU title. But he says, by rights, he should get next dibs on the British champ. So, a bit odd that the man that beat Zach Shelley doesn't get a crack at the British title. When...
True,
so I think Zach Shelley got the British title shot after losing to Jeffers. So poor Mark, he's a lovely, quiet lad. I actually said this to him. So maybe this is your problem. You're too quiet. In this game, you got to shout a lot louder to get noticed. Because he was saying he was going to take Kevin Saggio on at 6 days' notice. Like I said, Saggio's he's quite the danger man. Not many people want to fight him. Never mind on 6 day notice. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Okay. I think you're right, Carl. About was it you, Carl, or Jam, where you said about Shelley? Where does he go? Because he seems to have just, as Simpson said, as he found his level, just around British level. He can win some, lose some. So that's a bit hard for him, because at one point they were talking about him being the next super middleweight talent in this country. But as for Simpson, he better not get ahead of himself either. Jeffers, if it is Jeffers next, that's a really risky fight for him. I would not be surprised in the least if we start seeing this British title change hands, just like a pass the parcel. One winning and it goes on. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd have Jeffers knockout in that myself. I'd have Jeffers knockout all day long.
Because Jeffers, I'm pretty sure he's a lot better than all of us think. I have seen him actually a few years ago. I think it was during the pandemic on the Dennis Hobson show. That was the first I saw of him, and then he just seemed to disappear. Again, like I I said he hasn't got the right backing and doesn't make enough noise. So it could be interesting at super middleweight. I know it's not at the level of Carl's lofty Carl Froch standards, but sometimes when you got a whole load of average guys who are the same level, it can still make for interesting competition at that level.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Completely
let's
agree,
see.
Rob. No one's the level of Carl Froch, by the way, I must say. Not many anyway. Not many are the level of Carl Froch. The Cobra's 1 in a million, mate. He's an absolute beast. So next up, Harrison, did you watch this fight, mate? What was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I did watch this one and found it quite predictable, I thought, to be completely honest. I thought that this was very well managed by Boxer and set up to get Callum Simpson this title. We talk about how Zach Shelley, who was the champion, was demanded to go up to Yorkshire and try and defend his own belt, which felt a little bit rough around the edges, in my opinion. It always felt like Sky, and even if you were watching the broadcast, it very much felt like they wanted to invest into Callum Simpson for the future. But then again, he also did brilliantly to back that up, because I thought his performance was really, really good, to be honest. I thought he boxed very nicely. He looked very sharp, and he looked quite heavy-handed in the early rounds as well. It's a shame that kind of fizzled off a little bit, because when we see him going up the levels, there's going to be opponents where he can't feel like he's going to reduce in his own quality during a fight. He needs to just stay a little bit more consistent over 12 rounds for me, because I thought Shelley was slowly getting back into it at stages and wasn't actually doing much to get back into it. So there is definitely improvement, like everyone said there. He's far from the finished article, but he's on the right trajectory anyways to becoming a world champion in the next 5 to 6 years. The issue is with the super middleweight division, yeah, in terms of its top to bottom quality, it's not great, but the problem is those at the very top at the minute are way too out of his range at the minute. And I'm not just talking about Canelo. There's, the Jaime Munguias, the Berlangas, the Andres, whoever is up at the top level are just too good at the minute. That's the problem. I do like that Kevin Saggio fight for the European title. I think that's probably the problem is it's a dangerous fight, but it's a really good one as well. He needs to be in fights where the risk is as high as the reward is, because there's no point him fighting Mark Jeffers where he's given up a British title for a fight that he probably will lose, or he'll be in an absolute, 50-50 type fight. So I think that Boxer needs to manage him really, really carefully here, and they could be the big name for them going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Harrison, mate, to be honest. I completely agree with every word of that. Darren, what was your thoughts on this one, matey, if you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it, yeah. I thought the size difference from the opening bell was quite apparent. Like Simpson looked a lot bigger than Zach Shelley, and I think that was like one of the big advantages he had. I wasn't that impressed, in all honesty, with Callum Simpson. I thought he would handle Zach Shelley probably better than what he did. Zach Shelley did okay. I thought he grew into the fight a little bit and had a few successes in a couple of the middle rounds, and then he fizzled out a bit again. I thought, from what I thought Callum Simpson's negative. I thought he's a bit one-dimensional at times. All he did. I think he can, grow from that fight, and he goes on to bigger and better things again. But I think the Mark Jeffers fight will be a good test for him. And I do think, like what a lot of the guys have said, I think, I wouldn't rush him too much at the minute, because I think he's still got a lot of learning to do. It was an okay performance. A win's a win, like Carl said, but I wasn't that impressed with it, in all honesty.
Yeah, Darren, I was exactly the same, mate. I wasn't too impressed with him either. I found him very, very basic. He just done enough, didn't he? Just done enough.
Yeah.
Which he's not going to sell many tickets for the next fight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Alex, did you watch this one, mate? And what did you make of it?
Unfortunately, I did not watch this fight. I was watching the UFC fights at the time.
That's okay, mate. No problem. So we'll go back to the top then. So we're going to go to Andy Ruiz versus Big Baby Jerome Miller. This, for me, it was a draw. I had Miller winning it quite comfortably. I don't know how they gave Andy Ruiz the draw. I genuinely don't. His hand was all messed up. But that doesn't change the fact that he lost that fight, in my opinion. Carl, what was your thoughts on that one, mate?
Yeah, I had Miller by 3 rounds, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
Taking aside, I don't like him, because obviously what's happened in the past, but I'll put that to one side for the minute and just focus on the fight.
Yeah.
Coming, was it £300 lighter or something stupid? He looked the part a little bit more. He had more mobility, and there was a problem. I'm not sure how much Andy Ruiz Jr.'s got left. I think it's a case of he's made his money. I'm not sure the motivation's there anymore. and I haven't seen Andy Ruiz Jr. was getting picked up for fun, right? And I'm disappointed with Andy Ruiz Jr. So I think Miller got robbed. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, not. So obviously a draw. I'd imagine they might run it back because it was quite an entertaining fight. But no, I think Miller got robbed.
Yeah, I think the crowd answered it though when they asked him if they want to see a rematch. The crowd all booed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I'm not sure
I don't know if we'll see it.
I'm not sure,
Yeah, and that's only where it was, isn't it, at the BMO in Los Angeles. You know, if they bought it over here, it might get a bigger crowd, even with two Americans. You know, we don't care as long as it's a good fight to wear.
Eddie is not keen to work with him, though, is he? Reading between the lines, so
yeah. Well, after 5 failed drugs tests, you can't blame him. To be honest,
Don't rule it out.
No, never rule it out of Eddie Hearn. If it makes money, it makes sense. It makes dollars. It makes millions. It makes Eddie Hearn happy. Brett, mate, did you watch this one on the American card?
Yeah, I did, mate. I was live for this one. It's a very disappointing fight, wasn't it?
It was terrible for the first 7.
I mean, it sold well because I agree with Carl. Like, let's put it to one side what Miller is, because it's almost like the internet has started to feel sorry for him for being robbed based on what he's done in his previous decision making. But I feel like Ruiz, his hands were fast in the first 4 rounds. He probably took a 4-0 lead, and then Ruiz maybe nicked one in the 10th. But other than that, Miller just took over. He just backed him up. Didn't really throw a lot of shots. He was just wearing him down. He was on his chest and he was bullying him. But interestingly enough, like you were saying there, Carl, with him losing a bit of weight, whereas Ruiz came in his big heavy self and didn't look as conditioned. I know, look, he fights big. We know that. What he did to AJ, all the rest of it. He fights big. But when you look at Miller had realised against Dubois that he needed to have a little bit more conditioning in the bank. And he definitely did. Again, putting all the stuff to one side. Let's give him credit for that. He turned up in shape. He was a bit taken back by the hand speed inside the first 4 rounds from Ruiz. But then I think he hit him with a body shot in the 3rd.
Yeah. Right.
And it absolutely nullified Ruiz. Ruiz then started to back up a little bit. And then he just gassed from that. And, not a good fight, not a pretty fight. You can't turn around and say it was a boxing masterclass from Miller. You can't turn around and say it was a slugfest. But I had it 113, 115 in Miller's favour. I don't see how it was a majority draw.
And
I had it 116, 112, I did. Sorry, mate. I had it 116, 112 myself to Miller.
And Miller was playing that game where he finished the round strong as well.
Yeah, that little wash at the end. Yeah. I mean, look, he's a clever man. How do you go from being one of the most hated boxers to now, Saudi loving him? And Turkey will keep putting him on cards. And I'll just finish on this because I agree with Darren. Don't rule it out, because think about this. Let's see how this next rematch between Usyk and Fury goes. That's another conversation for another time. But this might be a little bit of fodder for AJ because it's going to sell. It's going to do a lot of money. It's going to do a lot of tickets. There's the bad history there. And Eddie might just throw Miller in there just for AJ to make a statement while he's waiting to see what his next move is.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, Brett. I would not be surprised at all, mate, because obviously we know that Miller failed the drugs test when he was meant to fight AJ. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And people want to see Miller get knocked out. So we could see it. You never know. SW Fight Hub, Sammy Walker, what's your thoughts on that one, mate?
Mic'd off.
I think you're muted, Sam.
My bad, apologies, mate. I had the pleasure of watching it with you live last night, Jam. Obviously, we did that for the stream. I was expecting a really fun fight between Miller and Ruiz. As we found out last night, we spent a lot of the stream talking about other things because it wasn't that eventful. But we were quite unanimous in the way that we scored the fight. Obviously, when we were watching it live, I think we had a couple each after 4. And then Jarrell Miller, for me, he took over the fight. He definitely did. He was walking Andy Ruiz down. He had no respect for what was coming back at all. Ruiz looked a little bit busted up. If anything, he looked like he was blowing a bit as well. And Ruiz tends to have decent enough conditioning, aside from the way he actually looked. But he's never struggled to do 12 rounds or anything like that. But so like Carl said earlier, I'm not a fan of Jarrell Miller. I don't think anybody on this right now is a fan of Jarrell Miller. But at the end of the day, I guess fair play. He cut 30-40 pounds. He looked a lot better in this fight. He fought a better fight. He did deserve to win the fight, but yeah, couldn't happen to a better bloke, as Carl said. Completely agree.
That's it, mate. That's it. Even Dan Canobio and is it Mark Benson? Someone Benson, the boxing guy. They both
Michael
had it
Benson.
10-2. Mark Benson, that's it. Sorry, yeah, they
Michael.
had it 10 rounds to 2 to Miller. Yeah, 10 rounds to 2 to Miller.
Yeah.
So even they seen it as wide as we did. To be honest,
Well,
we didn't even have it that wide, did we? But
Yeah, I think just going back to Miller and the guy saying about him being used for Saudi as well. You think about it, when he fought Daniel Dubois, he carried that press conference because I think which card was it? Was it on AJ Ngannou? Was it, or was it on the December card?
But when Daniel Dubois beat him,
When
It was AJ Berlin. It was the AJ Berlin
on
fight.
December 23rd, wasn't it? Yeah, it was on December 23rd. Yeah, he carried that press conference, and then realistically, him and Baby Anderson were going back and forth, weren't they, this week? I think Turkey likes having him on because, you know, in fairness to Jarrell Miller, I don't like him, but he is a good talker. Like, he can sell. So I think that's kind of where they kind of pick him up in that sense as well. But he's going to get loads of opportunities on these Saudi cards. He is.
he will, and he was better last night. You got to give him his props. He was a lot better. He was a lot fitter, a lot sharper. He looked a better boxer, more focused. He looked like an actual boxer rather than just a fat slob druggie who's just pounding around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Ruiz isn't in it anymore. He's not. His heart's not in. His heart hasn't been in it since he got that Saudi payday for the second fight of AJ. He's fighting once every couple of years at max. You know, he's not in it anymore. Ruiz.
yeah, he's a waste man, Sam. He's a waste man.
He's
a
the
waste
original.
man.
He's the original silk sheets man, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's the definition. Yeah.
Once he got that money, the hunger went out of him.
Yeah. Mr. Holcomb, what was your thoughts on this one, mate?
By the way, I only think Ruiz's hunger for fighting's gone. He's got plenty of hunger for food.
Oh, for food, kebabs. Looks like.
But yeah, I mean, I've only caught the highlights and just trying to piece together the sort of consensus of fans and media. It seems like, as you said, Ruiz has really fallen because in terms of pedigree, he was way higher than Miller. But I'm still not sure whether Miller is actually quite good because apparently he took the Dubois fight on just a couple of weeks' notice.
Yeah, he didn't have time to get his heads in his system.
Yeah, but heads or not, I don't know. He might.
Allegedly, Carl, thank you. Allegedly,
he might be a serious player because we've since seen this new Dubois with his dad in his corner. He's serious business. You know, Miller arguably, did he give Dubois as much or more problems than Hrgovic? Because arguable, and at one point Hrgovic was mooted to be the next great heavyweight. So I think it's interesting with Miller, and as SW said, he's such a character. I think he's well and truly in the mix of this heavyweight merry-go-round. So that'll be interesting to see where it goes. Wouldn't be surprised in the least if he was to get a vacant world title shot next year. You know, if you want justice in this business, you're probably looking in the wrong place. We know how this game works. As for Ruiz, yeah, again, was it the inactivity? Was it first fight in 2 years? And yeah, with no desire really to do this. What a waste of talent. Because he's not even that old, is he? He's still early 30s, which is young enough for a heavyweight. So it'll be interesting to see with him as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he just fades out of the game. Like maybe might hear him try and have a comeback in a year or two, and he will come in dreadfully out of shape and look bad, and then you know you might never hear from him again. So I think that's what it's looking like. But Miller, I think he's going to be a personality in the heavyweight scene for the next couple of years.
I agree, Mr. Holcomb. I agree. Harrison, what was your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and ruin everyone's Sunday night by being so awful and negative, but absolutely nothing good came out of that fight, and nothing will come good out of that fight, because the problem is the division at the minute at the very top level, very sadly, just isn't good. It's in terms of the quality, the personalities, the fights that you can put together, it's just not very good, unfortunately. Outside of the top 2 or 3, who are all obviously brilliant in their own right, they just have nothing else to compete with. And last night was just an atrocity. I hear people saying, and Carl said it earlier, this was an entertaining fight. I was nearly asleep 3 times. It was absolutely just dreadful. There was nothing to like about the style of either of them. Andrew Ruiz was picking up fights because he had little short spells where he threw 2 or 3 punches and was able to just nick around because nothing else was happening. Hard clinch fest, very low on activity, both of them. And I know the big lads, I'm not expecting them to tap around the ring like Mayweather used to. I just mean that there was a need to see more from both men, and they both had no desire to go out there and make a statement or put in an impressive enough victory to go, I've beaten him, give me AJ next, give me Fury next. They just, neither of them seem like they really want to be at the top level. Andy Ruiz especially is a really hard fighter to watch because his style at the minute, since that Joshua 2 fight, has been nothing worth examining or getting excited about. His head's completely out of the game, unfortunately, and last night was really difficult for the judging as well. I agree, Miller won it pretty wide. I agree with a lot of Twitter analysts, and I thought he was a good 5 or 6 rounds clear whenever we got to the judges. But you can see at the same time why it was as close as it was, because the rounds were so hard to score because not enough was happening from either man. So I was really disappointed in that. I thought the matchmaking was poor anyways going into it, but in particular, neither of those have any appeal to me.
I don't think the judge was covering himself in glory at all last night. You go on to the Cruz fight, that looked a bit dodgy to me as well, if I'm honest.
I did have Valenzuela to win, though. I did have Valenzuela winning that fight myself. But I can understand your point. Darren, what did you make to this one, mate? We'll try and make this quick now, guys, because then we can get through the next couple of fights, because we've been on 41 minutes already. I'm sure you guys have got better things to do than chat this with me all Sunday night.
Yeah.
But what did you make to this, Darren?
I've got to agree with what a lot of Harrison's just said. I thought it was sloppy, too much clinching, not enough of both of them really wanting to go for it, too much from Jarrell Miller late in the round, trying to take the judge, what the judges like type of thing. Andy Ruiz come out the first couple of rounds. I thought he'd done okay. I thought, perhaps the old Andy Ruiz, his back showed a bit of fast hands and that, and then it just completely fell apart. I agree with Harrison as well. I thought it was quite a hard fight to score. I didn't really agree with the draw, but I don't think Miller was like 4 rounds ahead like some people had him. I just think it was a sloppy fight. Andy Ruiz, you can blame the hand, you can blame his inactivity. Perhaps there is the factors of that, but his head's not in it. He was walking back to his corner with his head down. But then the thing for me was after the fight, when he's had his walk, he's cooled down and that, he's saying straight away, I want the rematch, let's run it back, baby. He's thinking of the dollar sign straight away. He's just thinking of the payday. And this is what's happened these last few fights. He's just looking for paydays, and very, very disappointed. Andy Ruiz, I expected a lot better even after 2 years out of the ring. But Jarrell Miller hasn't got a lot for me either. I thought it was a very low quality heavyweight fight. Same as Harrison, I agree with what he said.
Let's be honest about Andy Ruiz Jr. He's only had 1 cup final against AJ. The rest of his career, he hasn't really he hasn't shown anything really, has it? Let's be honest.
Other than that,
he's got about that fight as well. Both of them showed good chins. They both got solid chins, and Andy Ruiz has got that, and he's got his fast hands. But
I'm not sure.
He just doesn't.
I think we might need to manage expectations a bit about how good Andy Ruiz Jr. is.
Yeah, I don't think he's what he's cracked up to be. I really don't. Alex,
well, it's looking like that now, definitely.
Yeah, I did watch this one. I dragged myself into a stupor because of it, because I didn't agree with that decision.
This is where the sick came from.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was bad. Whiskey and brandy don't mix.
Oh, but, mate, never mix the spirits.
So I've learned that lesson. But as for the fight, I found it pretty entertaining because I had pre-gamed a little bit before the fight, so I was enjoying it. I was watching 2 big guys just start just swinging it out. Yeah, there were some bouts of inactivity, but when you look at what Jarrell Miller did, he took away one of the key parts of Andy Ruiz's game. Hatman Strikes Back labeled Andy Ruiz as a front foot counterpuncher. So what did Big Baby do? Anytime he had the chance, he would just shove Andy Ruiz back. He's like, if you're going to counter me, you got to do it off the back foot, buddy.
And stuck the shoulder in as well. He kept sticking the shoulder in, didn't he, Alex?
Yep. and I thought Miller won 116, 112, just like the one judge did. Apparently, the only judge who didn't have somebody's money in their pocket that night, allegedly.
Yeah, I had it 116, 112 as well, mate. That's how me, and I think you scored it the same, Sam, didn't you, lad? 116, 112, we had it, didn't we, in the end?
Yeah, I think, well, we had it 2 each, and then we gave most rounds, I think, to
After.
Jarrell Miller,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll move on then, guys. We'll move on now to Martin Bacoli against Big Baby Anderson. Now, this one, what a performance for the big Congolese British man. Fantastic performance, knockout in the 5th round. So pleased for Bacoli and Billy Nelson. No one deserves it more. What was your thoughts on that one, Carl?
Well, I don't want to say that. I've been telling you so for about 2 years, but how many times have I said on last spell that Anderson's a hype job, absolute hype job, fighting taxi drivers and God knows who else. North American boxing is in a mess in the heavyweight division, absolute mess. This guy was meant to be the next big oak for America to be heavyweight champion, and Bacoli just absolutely walked him down, and that uppercut. Sugar Hill in his corner, I thought, he might bring something out of him. I know he's only been with him for 4 weeks or whatever. But how many times can someone land the uppercut on you before you're going to move your head? So, yeah, sorry, Americans, bang average. Told you, I've been saying it for 2 years. Can he come again at a young age? Probably, but God, he needs to work on his technical ability.
Yeah, so, he was pretty poor, Carl. He was pretty poor.
He was shocking. So Bacoli's now in a very strong position. There's a problem. I'm not sure how far he goes. Billy Nelson likes to tell us about his sparring stories, don't he? But Bacoli is gonna get some top fights now because he'll be in the Turkey Al Sheikh Club, won't he? So good performance by Bacoli, but Jared Anderson and North American boxing, have a look at yourself. You're a mess.
Completely agree, Carl. Thank you, mate. Brett, what's your thoughts on that one, Mr. Boxing Man?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because I know you need to catch a few fights up. Bacoli had a game plan, didn't he? He'd seen the weaknesses that we'd all seen. I mean, I don't know, Carl, like who connected to the sport that loves the sport has really been singing the praises of Anderson, because I ain't seen anything. I tell you what I will say about him is he looks the part, and they need after a while.
Not enough.
No, not enough, mate. And I tell you now, when he cracked him in that first round, because people have just stood off him. The competition that he's had, whoever he's fought, no one stuck it on him. And Billy Nelson and Bacoli's game plan was to stick it on him, was to bully him, was to back him up and smash him to bits. And that's what he did. And then he got him out of there. And again, just to finish it off, I don't mind, again, because Turkey loves selling the numbers. I absolutely don't mind bringing Dylan White into the mix here and seeing Bacoli versus Dylan White. I think that would be a good fight.
Zhang for me. I'd like to see him with Zhang.
I think you tweeted last night. One of you did. Totally agree. It can be Zhang for me too. Was it you, Darren? Yeah. I totally agree. That's a cracking fight. But just he's sniffing, isn't he, Dylan? He's sniffing in, and this might be his way in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well, mate. Sam, SW Fight Hub, what was your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, delighted for Billy and Martin Bacoli. First off, I thought Bacoli would stop him. They had a little arrogance about them, obviously in the build-up from a way off. Billy and Martin did, but especially on fight week, you could just see it written all over him. He felt Anderson's power in the first round, and you could see it written all over. But Bacoli fancied it from the off. He really did. Anderson started working the body a little bit. Bacoli was just kind of, just zero respect for what Jared Anderson had for him last night. He knew he was getting a guy who's very green, a guy who hadn't been tested, a guy who went life and death with Charles Martin. Who we know Charles Martin's limitations essentially. So really delighted for Bacoli because yes, we all laugh at the sparring stories and they are funny. Let's have it right, but he hasn't had the opportunities because he's not popular and he's not got the backing, or he's not a big talker, or he's not whatever. He hasn't got the opportunities essentially. But like you say, he's going to be on the Riyadh season train now. Like the guys just said, the fight to make is Zhilei Zhang. If you can't fight Zhang, gimme Joseph Parker, and then winners. He's WBA #1. Martin Coley was before last night as well, which is why I think Turkey talked Jared Anderson into taking that fight last night because he's a Riyadh season ambassador, and I don't think that fight wouldn't have happened if Turkey wasn't involved. He wouldn't have took that fight if it was just Top Rank dealing with Boxer or whatever it was. It just wouldn't. Ben Shalom said in the week he wouldn't have even made the call to make that fight because Anderson wouldn't have taken it. So I think Turkey give him a little shove into taking that one, and he's going to regret that because Jared Anderson wasn't ready for that last night.
Yeah, it cost Jared Anderson his undefeated record, basically, didn't it? Because he wasn't ready for that fight. Bakole was too big, too strong, just too accomplished for him, and he absolutely outmanned him in there. He outmanned him. Nothing Anderson done could make a dent in Bakole. He just walked through him. Ra Hokan, what was your thoughts on this one, mate, if you watched it?
Sort of highlights, and it's a fight. I'm glad I got my prediction wrong because I was someone, although I had my doubts about Anderson's mental strength, because of all the out of the ring stuff, I gave him the benefit of the doubt and thought he might be able to replicate what Michael Hunter did. Obviously, didn't get anywhere near it. I'm glad for Martin, though. Great to see the big Congolese guy essentially walk straight through him. I don't think it's the end for Anderson, but I don't think Sugar Hill's a good fit for him because that Midwestern style, it's supposed to be slick. And I think that's where the hype for Anderson was coming from because he was probably the first slick American heavyweight for 30 years, they're saying. So that's not how the Kronk fighters don't fight slick. But, they fight rangy and then look to land a big knockout shot. I don't think that was ever his game. So whether he can recover psychologically from that, I mean, based on what happened to Yoka, another golden boy that Martin sent his career sort of back by 4 years, he might be out of the top level picture for some time. But he's 24, so I guess it don't matter. As for Martin, yeah, he's got some great options, but again, he's high risk, low reward, isn't he? So it'll be interesting to see who will take him on.
Definitely high
His
risk.
best,
Definitely high risk.
His best bet might actually be a Michael Hunter rematch because I thought Hunter's win over Cassius Chaney made him some sort of interim, or is he a mandatory? I don't know, because sometimes you're a mandatory even though you're not ranked #1. There's all weird stuff going on. So yeah, that might be his best route to getting a world title because can't see any of the other title. Well, there's only one title holder essentially now, giving him one. Let's see. I think he's one of the most dangerous heavyweights out there, but it'll be hard
Sheer
pressed to
size
get
alone,
this
Rob.
opportunity.
Sheer size alone makes him dangerous, doesn't it?
Sheer brute force, yeah.
Exactly,
But yeah,
exactly.
let's see.
Harrison, what was your thoughts on this one, mate? Did you watch this one?
Yeah, watch this one. He's a proper heavyweight Martin Bakole. He's just a big lad with a massive punch on him, and it's very it's reminiscent of what we used to see in the 90s and early 2000s, what you wanted in a heavyweight. And the style of this modern age really, really is starting to suit him. And I was really, really actually just proud and pleased for him, to be honest, because I feel like, and Billy Nelson, who's quite animated on Twitter, he always has been, he's been talking about the inability to get fights for Bakole for so long. And I'm really glad he's got this opportunity off the back of Riyadh season to go and do this fight. Because, like someone just said there, bang on, this fight never would have happened if it wasn't for Turki Al-Sheikh, because why would Jared Anderson get in with him in the first place? So I was really buzzing for Martin Bakole on last night because he deserved it more than anything else. Jared Anderson's a really tricky problem. The big issue is, in the States, they are desperate to have a big American heavyweight at all times because that's in their history. Of the last 15 years, they've always had someone. Obviously, Deontay Wilder held it for a long time, but even before that, the likes of Mike Tyson, Bernard Hopkins, whoever, they've always had massive names in the sport where they just need to have someone. The problem is there's nobody else. And like Carl's always been really animated about how good or bad he is. I just think, and top ranker legends of the sport, we all know that. I just don't think he's been managed very well because the problem was he got in there last night and he wasn't jumping a level or two above to get to Bakole. He was jumping leaps and bounds from what he's been fighting on these headline top rank shows, unfortunately. So it was too big of a leap. But like Raj just said, there he's 23, 24 odd. He is going to come again, and he will be a much better heavyweight next time around. He's got to go away. I think there's a need for a promotion change, to be honest. I just think he needs to get into a stable that are going to give him more competitive fights. I don't think Matchroom's a million miles away. I think that would work out really well for him. But yeah, it was a bit disappointed with Jared Anderson. But Bacoli just boxed brilliantly. High pressure. His hooks were unbelievable. That uppercut, goodness me. You know, I've seen heavyweights take those type of shots and go flat on their ass. So Jared Anderson, a bit of respect for how much he actually took. I thought that fight could have been stopped a lot earlier, to be completely honest. But yeah, Bacoli just at his best, and he deserved to win last night.
Yeah, completely agree. Alex, what was your thoughts on this one, mate?
Me, mate.
Oh, sorry, Darren, you just moved. It's because you moved, bro. It's because your screen moved. Go on, Darren. Sorry, mate. You go. Sorry, pal.
Well, I'll hold my hands up first. I got it completely wrong about Jared Anderson. I said this might be his coming of age fight, and how badly wrong was I? I just thought, like, you know, he's big stage to shine. You know, in his own country, I thought, you know, he's going to put a show on here. But how wrong did I get it? Martin Bacoli was superb. He's a big unit. He punches hard. He's got a solid chin. It looks like even when he took him, they're just bouncing off him. Brilliant performance, and I'm pleased for Billy Nelson and Martin Bacoli. As regards Jared Anderson, 24, he can come again, but like Carl said, he's got so much to learn. He was getting hit at will, no defense. He started to get a little. I felt like he was starting to get a little bit of a grip, probably third round, something like that. But as soon as he got hit again, he was taken apart. The one thing I'll say though, I've seen some people saying about, oh, he's the next big thing in the division, Martin Bacoli, and if he catches the likes of Usyk and that, if they fight them, Usyk's not going to just stand there like Jared Anderson was. Usyk's a boxer, so we have got to keep level-headed about it. You know, a good boxer, I do feel, can beat Martin Bacoli. He's going to be a problem, but I feel the boxers who stay out of range and don't get in close like Jared Anderson was with a good defense will be able to beat Martin Bacoli. But he put on one hell of a performance, and he's definitely put himself in the mix without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Darren, mate. Alex, what did you think of this one, mate?
It put heavyweight prospect boxing in the bin again. We're just struggling over here with heavyweights in America, like someone before me said. It's unfortunate because we do have a rich history of heavyweights, but it just hasn't been our division for a long time. Bacoli, he surprised me. I got fooled by the giant belly that I saw staring at me in the face, like, hey, I don't do any laps. I don't go and do cardio. So I guess it's big boy season again. Here we go.
I'd rather you get your belts out.
He's normally got his belt, Alex has.
Oh,
Alex,
no, don't encourage
here we go.
Hey, Sirhan, is your mic working today, brother?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, mate, very well. What did you make
Yeah.
of it? He's your native Ohioan, isn't he, Jared Anderson?
Well, I told you guys I wasn't hip with a guy. I tried everything I can to defend him, but there's his third strike. I mean, someone mentioned he had the effortless performance against Charles Martin. You and I did the watch along, of course, at his previous fight where he basically throwing jabs to the guy's gloves. And I said, Bacoli, yeah. And Bacoli was not a guy you wanted to mess with. So, I mean, he can go one of two ways with this. Either one, he can pick himself up and come back, or two, he can just let this thing just basically end his career down the tubes. As the guy next to me just said, over here in the States, we're struggling for heavyweights. You know, we haven't had a big name one forever. Deontay Wilder was just a name, but when he was found out by Fury, we know what happened there.
Exactly, mate. Yeah,
You could end up going down the route like Broner did. Obviously, Broner was a different beast in terms of his accolades of what he reached, but he's had that money now, hasn't he? And so you could find him spiraling off. It's going to take a good management group to keep him on that track and then restart again, like Carl said earlier. You've got to manage him better than what he's been managed. That was too much of a big step for him.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
Well, someone said because of defensive flaw of just leaning his head back like he's going against shorter guys again. This was the biggest, longest reach dude he's ever fought, and he just tried to lean back like he could do against everybody else. Whoever was Sugar Hill's training him, he should have trained that out of him as soon as they knew they were going to fight a guy as long as Bacoli.
100%, mate. 100%. Right, I was going to do the Morel and the Caroline Dubois, but there's not really much to say on that one. So should we jump straight in with the Bud against Madrimov one?
Yeah.
Everyone
yeah.
give what they think on that. To be honest, I was disappointed in both fighters. This might sound mad. I think both fighters were pretty poor. I wasn't impressed with Bud and I wasn't impressed with Madrimov. I expected a lot more from both. For me, neither are as good as they was proclaimed to be. That's just my opinion. I don't see him. I don't think Bud's as great as people think. If he goes up to 168, Canelo knocks him out. I genuinely believe that. I think Canelo knocks him spark out at 168. What's your thoughts on that one, Cole?
Yeah, Eddie Hearn was fuming, wasn't he, in post-fight interviews, saying that he thought Madrimov took it 115, 113. I don't really see that, if I'm honest. I think Crawford did enough. But Madrimov did give him problems, right? And I agree, Crawford didn't quite look on his game. So, yeah, it was quite an underwhelming fight for what had been built up as built up to be a bit of a war, wasn't it? Crawford won it for me. There's not really much to say on it, Jams, because it was quite a boring fight, if I'm honest with you, because it was a lot of holding going on. Madrimov, was he ever going to win the fight? You know, the scorecard suggests not, if I'm honest with you. So it'll be interesting where Hearn takes Madrimov next. Not the biggest profile. Probably would have grown his profile after this fight. But Crawford's the interesting one. What's he going to do next? He's talking about Canelo. On that performance, I agree. Canelo would walk him down and knock him out. So, yeah, underwhelming fight. I think Crawford nicked it, but he only nicked it.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you, Carl. What do you think to that one, Brett, about the Bud Madrimov fight?
Yeah, I agree. I'm very underwhelmed. We're all super excited about watching it. But I'll be honest, I'm a huge Eddie Hearn fan just because of, you know, you can say what you want about him, but what he's done for the sport over the years, you know, he's given us some good nights of boxing. But I was like you said, I was disappointed, Carl. I was disappointed with his reaction because I lost a little bit of respect for that reaction because Madrimov didn't do enough to win the fight.
No,
I almost feel like he came in there to survive against the big name of Crawford. He didn't, you know, we talked about it before when it's your big moment, Ruiz, Miller, and like someone lay it on the line, make a name for yourself. Madrimov was like, I'm just going to stay away from this. I'm going to walk him down, but I'm not going to throw anything because I don't want to get countered. And that's what he did. I saw it a little bit differently. I had it 116, 112, but you know, then again, if we're all honest, the rounds were difficult to score. You know, it's I suppose in that it's what you like. Do you like the counter punch or do you like the walking down with little tappy jabs? You know, it depends what you like. But I had it 116, 112, but very disappointed. And I will say this. You know, I was on a boxing space last night and they're talking about Canelo. It's just that it's a ridiculous thing to say. He's not ready for Canelo. He just isn't. Maybe have another good fight. Make a big splash, and then let Canelo get a little bit more miles on the clock, and then maybe get Canelo on his way out. But that they can.
What weight is that going to be at? It's going to be at catch weight. What weight? Where are we talking?
That's the problem.
Crawford wants it at 168. He doesn't want to catch weight.
Crawford said he'd go to 168 to do it.
Yeah, he wants the belts.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous talk. All I'll say is the way that Turkey is, and we talked about the pressure of what he put Anderson on. I think, let's see what happens next weekend, but I think Turkey's going to put the pressure on for him to fight Ortiz in a big blockbuster.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Brett. I completely agree. Alex, what's your thoughts on that one, mate?
Honestly, it went exactly as I thought it would. I predicted beforehand. I said 8-4 for Bud Crawford. That's what I saw. He was doing good work. He was blocking a lot of punches on his gloves, and just Madrimov, he would come forward. He would try to show some spirit at times, but it wasn't enough. His orbitals started swelling because he kept getting jabbed with the southpaw right hand. So it was just, what can you do? You went against a great fighter, and it wasn't your night, young man. You didn't have the experience to beat a guy like Crawford anyway. When you only have 10 fights, you need more experience than that. So he'll come back and he'll probably get another title at 154.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. Completely agree with you. Darren, Mr. Aston, what was your thoughts on this one?
this is one I actually did get right on the night. I said Crawford would win on points, and I thought Madrimov would make it difficult for him, and I thought he did at times. I think that's why Terence Crawford probably didn't look great in this fight. I think it was Madrimov's style didn't make him, the way he made him look. I thought Madrimov, like his style was, there was a lot of movement, a lot of herky-jerky, but there weren't really a lot of shots thrown. It was just the movement all the time. Crawford done okay. Like you say, it wasn't a brilliant spectacle. Was expecting a better fight. It made Terence Crawford look not as good as what he actually is. I think to say, you said that you don't think he's as good as what you thought he was. I probably disagree with that. I think it's just a style. And we see what happens for him next. But I think Crawford deserved the win. I think it was disappointing to see what Eddie Hearn's saying. He's just backing his guys and trying to get him possibly the rematch or something. It won't happen.
Yeah, that's a bit of the paper.
That's exactly what it is. But I wish sometimes that's probably Eddie's downfall. He knows his fighter hasn't won, but he still tries to back him up as long as he can. But fair play to him. But good Crawford win, but not a great fight.
He's not the only one to do that, though, does he? Warren's classic at doing it.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's all of them, isn't it? But they're the salesman at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Bob Arum after the Jack Catterall win against Taylor. It's an absolute disgrace. We will never come back to the UK.
Jumped in the ring, didn't he? Jumped in the ring and started threatening everyone.
You see his old ass just sitting at ringside,
saggy old ass
out of his ball sack.
I'm going to have to sign out now, guys. I'll see you soon, okay?
Okay, Darren. God bless, mate. Thank you for coming through, my brother. Appreciate that.
See you, mate.
Take care, mate. Harrison, what was your thoughts on that one, mate? On the Bud Madrimov fight?
Yeah, I thought it was an alright fight. Actually, I didn't think it was as boring as people made it out to be. I thought you have to be into the really high technical side of boxing, but I thought once the nervous energy kind of assimilated after the first few rounds, I thought that the openings were really well, and I thought both actually boxed really well. I thought Madrimov was actually quite good. He was just in there with someone who's gonna go down. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and unfortunately, sometimes you just get in there with brilliant fighters, and he just wasn't good enough to keep up with them. I thought at times Madrimov probably didn't fight the right fight for him personally. I think his style, especially at that weight, he was going to have that dominance. Obviously, it was Bud Crawford coming up, and I thought Madrimov should have probably used his power a little bit more, and he should have been a bit heavier. He seemed to sort of lay back in his punches. He seemed a bit scared of the counter-punching of Crawford. And at times, Crawford's counter-punching is probably what won the fight, to be honest. He had Madrimov coming in. He reeled him into really nice, good work. And then there was some really nice inside sort of short hooks, really powerful shots as well. And I thought just as the fight progressed, I thought Crawford just eventually was just doing enough and winning the rounds. I had it 15-13 Crawford. I didn't hate a draw, to be honest, because that's probably the toughest fight Crawford's had, maybe ever, to be honest. It's definitely it's the hardest fight he's had in about 7 or 8 years' time. So yeah, it was tricky. It was tricky to score at times. I thought Madrimov, like I said, he boxed well, but Crawford just always seemed to have a bit of a know-how. It was almost like his intelligence is unbelievable. His boxing IQ is really, really well to examine because he just knows all the time where he's at in a fight, what he needs to do to win certain rounds. If he's behind, okay, I need to do this and that. It was probably the first time he's not been switching to southpaw as regularly as often because he's a brilliant switcher of the game, but he seemed to be really happy and orthodox for most of the fight, and he was catching Madrimov well. Eddie Hearn, I like his comments because you're going to stand up for your fighter, aren't you? You're not going to sit there in the ring afterwards and say, yeah, my man lost by 2 rounds. You're not going to do that, are you? So I respect him for that, but he was a bit loopy. I think if Madrimov had nicked a decision there, then there would have been a bit of uproar about it. I
think there'd have been riots in the crowd, Harrison, to be honest, if that had happened. If Bud had lost in LA, I think there'd have been riots, mate. Mr. Holcomb, you're next, and then Sirhan.
Yeah, I'm probably a dissenting voice in this. I mean, I've only seen the highlights, so I haven't got a full idea of how it went. But from what it looked like to me, I didn't see that Bud particularly had that much problems, especially in context of that fight, which I've not changed my opinion on the Canelo fight. I still want to see it, and I'm still fairly confident Bud beats him. A lot of the talk is, oh, well, you know, if Canelo hits him with shots like Madrimov did, I'm not convinced that Canelo hits harder and is bigger, particularly than Madrimov. Madrimov's a fair bit younger. He's still faster, sharper, fresher.
he probably steps through the ropes a similar weight to what Canelo steps through the ropes at. Because in his mid-30s, I doubt Canelo's dehydrating and rehydrating in 24 hours much anymore. Who has Canelo put to sleep with one shot? Amir Khan. That's about it. So I'm not
convinced Pillow could put him to sleep.
That
Amir Khan got put to sleep by Britta's Prescott.
Bud looked against Madrimov is in Canelo. I think my thoughts exactly. So the one guy Canelo's knocked out with a single shot has already been knocked out at lightweight. No, from again, admittedly, just from the highlights, I thought he looked good in his debut against a much bigger opponent. And time will tell how good Madrimov actually is. I wouldn't be surprised if now Madrimov goes and blitzes a whole load of other 154 fighters who are dangerous in their own right.
Yeah.
But let's see. I still want to see the Canelo fight. I'm adamant on it.
Let me ask you this real quick. So I think Crawford needs to acclimate to 154 more before he tries to go up to super middleweight. Because if he tries to go the same way he did here up to super middleweight, he is gonna lose. I don't know if he'll get chin because yes, Canelo doesn't have one punch knockout power, but he has I hurt you and break you down power. Ask all the undefeated fighters at super middleweight who lost their O to him.
Exactly. He'll grind him down.
Yep.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone breaks down Bud Crawford unless they're big enough to just walk through him. And I'm not convinced Canelo can do that simply because he's the guys he's been breaking down at super middleweight themselves are not great punchers and they're quite plodding generally.
If anyone, maybe Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz would probably be the only one I'd worry about smacking him and probably maybe getting his jaw off. It'd be Virgil Ortiz Jr.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. Ideally, you would want Bud to have a few at 154 against big, dangerous 154 guys, then go up to 160. But time ain't on his side. I mean,
he's 37 in a month's time.
Omac said he's got a couple more. So if he's going to do this, the reason I want to see him do it is because if he beats Canelo, I mean, that puts him into another level of greatness. And unfortunately, his career's just been stalled by promotional issues for years. He's going to have to make that leap. I want to see him.
Aren't you the president of the Canelo Hate Club as well, Ra?
Well, absolutely. And I want to see him get the humiliation of getting beaten by someone 3 divisions below him.
Yeah,
so,
I'd like to see that just for the sake.
I wear my hate on my sleeve. So
it's a good point. It's a good point from Ra though. Like when you think about it, he is knocking on Crawford and
37 next month, bro.
Yeah, and you're right. I didn't take that into play. I thought he'd still try and chase the legacy, but he may take that fight as a cash out. And I just think I'm going to tell it how it is. It could be one of the most boring fights of all time because it could be two fighters downloading information for the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then we'd have to see if it took spark. But that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. If Bomac said he's only got 2 fights left, then maybe he does take it next.
Yeah, I completely agree, Brett. Mate, you've not had your say yet. What's your thoughts on this one, on Bud against Magdalmov?
The only question I have is why do we have 3 guys here going crazy over a Bud Canelo fight after last night? And I'll get to you 3 here in a minute. As far as the fight goes, I had a 16-12 Crawford. I thought Magdalmov was credible, but not enough to win the fight. I thought Crawford landed the more showier punches. You saw it on Magdalmov's face. It started to pile up. This was a purest fight for a the purest boxing fan who loves a kind of a chess match, because this is what this was at the end of the day. I said Madrimov was a bit of an interesting stylist matchup for him. Part of the problem was Crawford's lack of activity. Remember, he hadn't fought since he demolished Earl Spence Jr., and this was his first fight in over a year at a new weight class.
Someone made
an interesting point as I listened the other night. When Canelo had his first fight at light heavyweight, he knocked out Sergey Kovalev, albeit a deteriorated Sergey Kovalev, but he was active. Crawford hadn't fought him more than a year, and I guess a difficult style. And because of that, I thought he was a little rusty in the beginning, but he did seem to find himself later on as the fight wore on. I had a 16-12 just largely because he landed the more showier punches of the two.
Yeah, there's no wrong with that, sir, mate. It's quite a good card, that.
But also, I think Butch should just stay at 154 for now. There's options out there like it's a Virgil Ortiz, a Tim Zhu, or maybe a guy like a Boots Ennis would come up maybe there at some point because I don't think he's going to stay at 47 too long with that big body.
I won't put him in with Ennis. That's the one person I won't put him in with.
And they won't do, will they? And Ennis isn't a big enough fight for him to jump in with him. Yeah, it's not a big enough profile.
Needs
what about 160 car? 160 against Alim Kanali.
Well, if he wants to talk, he should jump in with Tim Tszyu because Tim Tszyu's another hype job like Jared Anderson. What's he achieved to get such a profile?
I believe that as well.
Well,
at least he's out with that nasty cut till December, isn't he?
He can almost be an American fighter. Is that bad?
Well, too many people are too crazy over Bud Canelo right now. And as I said last night on the show, I don't want to hear it because right now that fight makes next to no sense for him to jump 2 weight classes. Anyone that wants to talk about it, you can talk to someone else. Don't talk about it to me because you don't want to hear it from me.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Well,
Well,
very
lads,
demanding.
we've covered all the fights tonight. Check out Sir Handai on We Like Sports. That's his article that he writes.
I have an article published on this fight coming up.
We've got Brett the Boxing Man, so follow him on all his socials. We've got Carl Widow, who's Last Bell Boxing. We've got Alex Sankey. You can find him, Alex the Great or Alex S on X. We've got, is Harrison still with us? I can barely see.
He's there.
I need to put my goggles on, mate. Hold on 1 second.
You need sleep.
We've still got Mr. Ferris with us. Harrison Ferris is with us. You can find him and he does write-ups on horse racing and other stuff. So you can find him on X and other social media.
Jams, you look like you're about to do the Kentucky Derby with those goggles.
I know, mate. They're not my favourites, but the only ones I've got that I've got Andy, so they'll have to do. And we've got Mr. Ra Hokum, which is Ra_Hokum, Punch Out Boxing. You can find him on X and YouTube and a few other places. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you all soon. God bless, lads.